I'm a full hippie, right. And I just think now, perhaps this is me becoming an adult, I want to vote for the things that make people around me, nurses who are using food banks, not have to use food banks anymore. That is a disgrace.
Yeah, that is a disgrace.
And I can't handle it. And for the first time in my life, I'm sorry to be really serious, I know this isn't what it's all about, but I cannot accept it. I will not accept it. And if somebody wants to go to Downing Street and oust the government, I'm in. So if someone starts that, I'm there.
Okay, Robert, you've got to bring your own placard and your own get-out-of-jail-free card. All right.
Oh, goodness, I'm an artist. I'll do it.
Okay, all right. I'll see you at the gates. Thanks a lot. 0345 6060 973. Hannah texts, Trustpot is only doing what the Blob did, getting away with murder and throwing anyone around him under a bus. So she's expecting to last at least 2.5 years, as he did. That means no general election till May 2025, if there's still any part of the country left by then. If there's still any part of the country left by then. Well, at the moment, this country is like a car that's up on bricks. They've nicked the wheels, and they'll be coming back tomorrow night for the rest of the stuff. I hope you haven't left any change in the ashtray. Phil emails, Jeremy Corbyn's spending plans were far less than Truss's. Remember how they laughed him out of court, and look what happened to him. Is it one rule for the Tories, etc.? No, Phil, it's no rules for the Tories. 0 rules for them. They don't have any rules.
I followed the ministerial guidance at all times. I followed the ministerial guidance at all times. I followed the ministerial guidance at all times.
He lied. Let's have Stanwell. Hello, Michael.
Hello there. How are you?
I'm great.
Good stuff. Yeah, a couple of things. I know you've got to put in a couple of things. I heard the guy earlier say he's got 3 things, so I'm just going to say 2.
2 things.
Yeah, 2 things. Did you see Robert Patterson asked Liz Truss, will she say sorry to the public? And she went into robo mode and just repeated, well, what I'm about is growth.
Yeah.
She completely, he only said one thing, can you say sorry to the public? And she completely went off on that same recorded spiel that she had, been told to say.
There's about 5 words, and she has to have at least 1 per sentence, and they are decisive. It is the right thing to. They keep saying that this or that is the right thing to do, as though they're going to use some sort of Jedi mind trick to convince us that the wrong thing to do is the right thing to do. Unfortunately, they're not Jedis.
Exactly. The other thing I was going to say is what can we do in the government? We can see how corrupt they are and how they make the pound fall and who benefits from it.
Yes.
You have different committees. There obviously needs to be an independent body involved in the House of Commons that can investigate,
like the police, for instance.
No, not the police. You've got sirs and you've got people in high. Well, you've got people in high positions that are brothers with people in a Conservative Party, all sorts of, connections. What you need is an independent, completely unaffiliated, that will go in without any sort of, worrying about upsetting this one and that one.
And you know what will happen? Nothing at all. They'll take 5 years. The inquiry will cost £50 million, and they will conclude that lessons must be learned.
No, but I understand that. But what I'm saying is that nothing will happen. That they've been robbing us blind for many years, especially with COVID. We know about
it seems to be in a frenzied pace over the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, well, that's it. And it's because there is nothing that can be done. No. They are us blind. People are paying their taxes for the Tories to take it and give it to whoever they want. And we can do nothing about it. So there really needs to be reform or a revolution. Things need to change in government because the country can't go on with the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. It's absolutely disgusting, Nick.
I can't agree with you more, Michael. I appreciate it. 0345 6060 973. There was this study about how the wealth is distributed in this country and in America. compared to other countries where happier people live. Oh, blimey, it's a bit of a long piece, this. It's from the financial, those left-wing activist hippies at the Financial Times. I'll see if I can skip through it, give you a taste of it. It says, where would you rather live? A society in which the rich are extremely rich and the poor very poor, or a society in which the rich are only very well off, but those with the lowest incomes enjoy a decent standard of living? Select. For all but the most ardent free market libertarians, the answer would be the latter, as in, the rich are very well off, but those on the lowest incomes enjoy a decent standard of living, as opposed to having to go to food banks because they're starving to death and having to go to warm banks because they're freezing to death. That does not really constitute a happy country, does it? They say, based on this, it follows that a good way to judge which countries are better places to live than others is to ask, is life good for everyone there or only good for rich people? If you are a proud British or American person, you might want to look away now. Starting at the top of the ladder, Britons enjoy a very high standard of living by virtually any yardstick, that is, the richest among us. The top earning 3% took home around £84,000 after tax. This puts Britain's top earners just behind the wealthiest Germans and Norwegians. So what happens when we go down? For Norway, it is a consistently rosy picture. The top 10% ranks second for standard of living among the top deciles in all countries, the top 10%. The average Norwegian household ranks second among all national averages, and at the very bottom, on the other hand, Norway's poorest 5% is the most affluent bottom 5% in the world. Norway is a good place to live whether you're rich or poor. This is why when those happiness index comes out, and they do it on a yearly basis, the countries at the very top are always the same blooming ones. Norway, Sweden, Finland, the same perfect countries over and over again. And this is the reason why. It's because they are well off, but the riches aren't concentrated into the hands of a vanishingly few number of people right at the very, very top. It's spread about. The rich are still rich. They're not going to be worrying about paying their bills. They're doing fabulously well. It's just that they don't have all of the money. I mean, after your first couple of million, let's say 10 million, are you really going to be that desperate to acquire more money because you're in want of something? What propels billionaires to avoid paying any tax in order to keep all of the money that they've already acquired, which is more than they could ever spend if they stayed up 24 hours a day wandering around Harrods for the rest of their lives? They'd never get through that money. But this is what we got here. So Norway are doing great because they've got really rich people, among the richest in the world, but the poorest are also doing just fine. Britain is a different story, they say. While the top earners are in 5th place worldwide, the average household is in 12th, and the poorest 5% in this country, 15th in the world. Far from simply losing touch with their Western European peers, the lowest income group of British households had a standard of living that was 20% lower than their counterparts in Slovenia.
What?
Slovenia. People in Slovenia are better off than we are. I mean, it's just incredible. It's worse than that. The average Polish family will progress before the end of the decade to be better off than their British counterparts. A country in dire need of migrant workers, this country, may soon have to ask newcomers for a pay cut. So that's the reason for the general malaise. We're doing very, very well. And when they tell you that we are the richest, 5th or 6th now, I think, country in the world, then that sounds good until you remember where all the money is. No point in us being a rich country if all of the riches are held by somebody you don't know. 0345 6060 973. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Some nobody.
0345 6060 973. I should remind you, by the way, that this show does get stuck up the internet as a podcast. It's on Global Player. It's only on Global Player now, exclusive to Global Player, which you can download for free from Apple or Android. Android.
Affirmative.
Yeah, Apple or Android. Or you can use it as just a web page on your PC. Global Player. That's where you can find the podcast of this show. Now, if you go to Global Player, it is slightly confusing because there's two ways to listen to it. You can listen to it as live. That's the Listen Again feature. You don't want to do that. You want to listen to the podcast one because we take the news and the ads out, which means it takes less time to listen to. You'll use less electricity. And by this time next year, you'll be able to buy a party popper for Liz Truss's retirement party. Ask for it by name, only on Global Player. Nick Abbott, The Whole Show podcast. That's the Friday and Saturday night shows. I am also instructed to say that if you listen to this on the listening speaker, the magic speaker device, I can't say it out loud because it'll burst into action, the ALEXA. You know the ALEXA? Alexa, is this cheese good? I'm sorry, I can't help you with that. Just say ALEXA, open Global Player and play Nick Abbott, The Whole Show podcast. That is the magic phrase. Say its name and then say open Global Player and play Nick Abbott, The Whole Show podcast. And then say thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, good manners don't cost nothing, do they?
Be polite.
0345 6060 973. Let's have, well, let's be totally fair about this. Bexhill-on-Sea's been waiting the longest. Hello, Rob.
Hey, Nick. How's it going?
Great, mate.
I just wanted to give a couple of observations. It's been really interesting hearing what you've been saying. The Jeremy Hunt thing today, I sat up straight. I was really, really shocked. We've had 4 or 5 years of ERG leadership in the Tory party. Brexit, understandably, the nation spoke. They wanted one thing. And that group and anyone in it really had the floor for the Tory party. And over the last 3 years, every single policy of that group has kind of fallen on its arse.
Yeah.
And
they've
as
been
a result,
what's really sad is they've been dreaming about this for decades. I mean,
absolutely.
for maybe 50 or 60 years. Exactly right. They never expected to be given the reins to run a major country. They never thought that it was ever going to happen. They could just think and dream lovely thoughts about impoverishing more people so that they don't keep having babies and cluttering up the place and leaving more space for the rich.
And what was astonishing was when they then set out their path for all of their children, it fell over every single time and so hard.
Yeah.
And when Jeremy Hunt came in today, he's been waiting for this for so long. He's been embarrassed, humiliated by his peers, by his party. He's a statesman in his own Tory ranks, and yet has been kicked in the shins at every moment because ERG were winning. And when he was walked into the Chancellor role today, I was shocked. It meant that they had no one else to step forward, and they're dead. And for me, I was elated. I'm no Tory, and I've been waiting for something, anything, for the next 2 years until the election for some good to happen. And that was it. They had no one in their barracks. They had to let the biggest moderate Tory statesman step forward.
Moderate? I'm not entirely sure about that. He wanted the level of corporation tax to go to 15%.
No, I don't agree with that. But I mean, in the last 3 years, that's what we're calling a moderate, is someone like Jeremy Hunt. For him to come in, the only reason he'd take that poison chalice is his hope of being PM within the next 2 months. And I don't doubt that the failings of Theresa Coffey, the failings of the last Chancellor, the failings of Truss, is he probably will be in the top ranks by Christmas. And I think it's astonishing that we're in the state that we are.
Right. He'll be the top pick for striker in the team that's just been relegated.
That's exactly it. And the fact that he's stood up and gone, pick me, shows how desperate he is for that role. So it's an astonishing pick for a team that have been ERG for, 3-5 years now, and they have no one else to pick. And I find it really astonishing that this is where they're at.
It's kind of sad. If it wasn't so funny, it would actually be sad that all of these twisted brains who have been dreaming about this moment for so long, they couldn't have imagined in their wildest dreams that somebody would actually give them an entire country to play with. It was just, these thought experiments. They were just dreaming about the time when the rich could finally get a break. Because, when will rich white people ever get a break? And then, almost by accident, they were given the reins of power and could do anything they bloomin' well liked. And absolutely everything they did fell flat in its face pretty much the moment that their policy was uttered. What an absolute shower. It's just so sad. They've been dreaming about this for so long. If you see a film called, not Gattaca, the other one. Oh, God. I think it's got Matt Damon in it. It's where he is living on the Earth, and the entirety of the Earth is essentially a third world ghetto where nothing works and everybody is sick all of the time. The super rich have departed to go and live on a fantastical planet of their own making, where everything is green and beautiful and verdant with the waterfalls, and there's nothing but beautiful rich people there. That's what they've been dreaming of all this time. Unfortunately, you can't build a heaven without workers. And that's where us poor dopes who pay taxes come in. They can't reach the promised land without us paving the way. Idiots. I mean, really, what are they like? 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbot, LBC.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
I'm genuinely unclear.
Hang about, Nick. Listen. Now, what I'm trying to say to you is this, Nick, right?
Tony texts, the English people who voted for Brexit and Boris have a lot to answer for, but they are in denial. Thanks, England and Nigel. What an absolute skipfire. Yeah, thanks a lot, Nige.
I'm a nutcase.
How's Brexit going, by the way?
Brexit's going great.
Glad to hear it. Nathan texts, Suella Braverman is an anagram of a mean verbal slur. Coincidence? Says Nathan. And Wowbagger tweets, wow, it looks like the Lizbot modelled her career path not on Thatcher, but on the lifespan of the mayfly. In fact, when asked how long she has left, I suggest you don't need a calendar so much as an egg timer. It's not trickle down, it's flush away.
Disgusting.
Thanks a lot, Wowbagger. A little too much information there. A little too vivid an image. So, Miss Trust made scrapping plans to up the corporation tax from 19% to 25% at a cost of $18 billion, a central part of her leadership campaign, if you can remember back that far. It was the way in this country could access growth, and that became...
No.
And this was after she already had to U-turn and reinstate the 45p income tax rate for UK's richest people. If she keeps U-turning like this, she'll screw herself into the ground like an oil drill. A former cabinet minister said there would need to be a lot of pressure to get Truss out. Under existing party rules, she cannot face a formal leadership challenge until September next year.
What?
Oh, there might not be a country to lead in September of next year. Senior Tory backbencher Sir Roger Gale questioned why Liz Truss dismissed crazy Kwarteng for implementing her economic policies. And I can't believe I'm about to say this, but I agree with Roger Gale. What? Senior Tory Sir Bernard Jenkins said we must now be calm. Rash talk of ditching the PM or calls for a general election will not calm the financial markets. Yeah, I'm sure that's the Tory party's main concern, the financial markets. Meanwhile, former Minister Nadine Dorries released a statement. She said, and now there's frantic discussions about whether to try to remove the Lizbot barely a month into a premiership. But, once the Lizbot has been deployed, it cannot be turned off. It can't be bargained with. It can't be reasoned with. It doesn't feel pity or remorse or fear, and it absolutely will not stop ever until you are dead.
Correct.
Party grandees have been talking of replacing the Lizbot with Fishy, Sunak and Penny Mordaunt.
Oh, no.
Oh, they were second and third in the leadership contest. They changed their leader like most people change their pants. Once a month, whether they need it or not. And so now we're going to get the rejects from the catastrophic clown show. The clowns who didn't make the grade. The B team. And we're just supposed to carry on as though all this is perfectly normal and right and democratic. Meanwhile, the Times has reported about 20 or 30 senior MPs are attempting to form a council of elders to tell the MP to quit. The PM, rather, to quit. They're going to say...
Bye-bye.
A council of elders. Do they mean the dopes that got us into this mess in the first place?
Yes.
Why is the answer to the Tories' constant screw-ups always, we need more Tories? I mean, do you think that somebody else might be better placed to wipe up the mess than the people who made it? It's like asking a vomiting baby to tidy up the kitchen. Get the baby out of the kitchen. Let a grown-up do it. One MP said it's either Fishy as Prime Minister with Penny as his Deputy and Foreign Secretary, or Penny as Prime Minister with Rishi as her Deputy or Foreign Secretary or Chancellor or whatever. Really, how about Rishi as Punch and Penny as Judy, and we can see how they do wrestling sausages from a crocodile's mouth. And so to avoid us getting a say, us poor dopes who pay taxes might like to have a say in who is our next leader, because it's not like we're a democracy or anything. And to avoid more blue-on-blue attacks, the Tories beating each other up, one of the two would be selected and then enter number 10 in a sort of a coronation-style affair. A coronation. God, doesn't that sound absolutely lovely? Regal, even. I bet Fishy would look fantastic in one of the King's Spanglier hats. In fact, give Chas and Wills and Watson a rest and Fishy could be the new king and Penny could be his consort. Which always sounds a bit funny to me, consort. It sounds like a geisha girl, doesn't it? Consort, but with less makeup and more drinking.
Booze.
0345 6060 973. Chorlton. Nick.
Hello.
Nick.
All right, Nick, mate. Yeah, I just thought I'd phone up, right? Because I've denied being an environmentalist my entire life, right? But when I saw them two girls throw that tomato soup on that painting, I thought to myself for a second, you know what? I reckon they might have a point, actually.
What is that point?
Well, I think they're right. I think we need to stop oil. I think, when I saw them throw that soup on the painting, I thought, maybe they're right.
You were
Maybe they're
convinced.
Right all along.
Yeah, you were convinced. Right.
I'm convinced. No,
okay. And I'm convinced that you were convinced. Nice effort there, Nick. Not buying it. But those kids are stupid. I mean, is there any other way of putting it?
No.
They were morons. Their position was, do you care more about this painting than about the planet and life? Can we not care about both? Is it not possible that we might have in mind a concern about both things? Glue yourself to something else. Leave the paintings alone. Steve texts, Boris Johnson must be delighted that Liz has just increased his after-dinner speaking fee. And Siri says, the film you're thinking of is Elysium. Elysium, that's right. Where all the beautiful people live. And I don't mean Monaco. It's that they have got an entire another planet. Well, they're making moves to populate one right now. There is no planet B, as the cute phrase goes. 0345 6060 973. What is actually terrifying is we may be seeing in real time the saving of the world as we know it. Because if those policies that the trust pot has just announced, if they had actually not necessarily even worked, if they had been allowed to stand, then that might be our future. I mean, it still might be. Having dreamed about a nirvana for the rich and everybody else gets nothing, having dreamt about that for so long, they'll be loath to just give it up after the first bump in the road. But they do seem to have chucked all their toys out of the pram, and the baby, and the bathwater. But if it had worked, then I think that the human race would have been in big trouble. Huge. They're not going to stop trying, because once you become a millionaire, then the only thing that you are concerned about is keeping all of the money that you've got and making sure that nobody else comes anywhere near it. It appears to be the most important thing in your life, and that's where this libertarianism comes in. It's funded by billionaires who have an acquisitive eye and don't want anybody else to get anything that they could, rightly in their minds lay claim to, which is what all that libertarian nonsense is about. Leave the rich to do anything they want, and restrict the lifestyle of the poor such that they have fewer babies and clutter up the place less. The mouth-breathing knuckle draggers. that lot. People like me. And you, no doubt. 0345 6060 973. We might, by their ineffectualness, which is not the word I was going for, we may have actually been saved. If Liz Truss was any good, then we'd probably be in big trouble. Portsmouth, hello, Will.
Hi, Nick, how are you?
Good, thanks.
I've got a little bit of a top tip for our new Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt.
Jeremy Hunt.
So I think the idea is that he shouldn't go forward with a budget, because Nadim Zahawi and Sajid Javid, they never put forward a budget, and they lasted, at least double the time that Kwasing did.
So best to say nothing.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, don't even show up for work.
No.
That's the route to success. Do nothing. Yeah.
And even with the U-turns today, the price of government bonds still increased.
Okay, see, at that point, my brain sort of shuts down, because I have no idea about any of that sort of stuff. And all those complicated financial maneuverings, all that finagling, I've got no idea. When people start talking numbers at me...
86%, 5 million. And
my brain just shuts down. And I think that's what they rely on. People like Stepford, they rely on people's brains shutting down when you start doing numbers at them.
And one... 2.
Yeah, and at that point, I stopped listening. You, me, and everyone I know. So that's how they continue to get away with it, because nobody else can either fathom what it is that they're talking about. I don't think that they know what they're talking about either. Do you actually know what you're talking about, Stepford?
So obviously,
that's a no. Thanks a lot, Will. 0345 6060 973. Jared emails. The Labour Party did indeed pick the wrong Miliband. Had they picked David Miliband, then they would have won the 2015 general election and not lost it. This means that there would have been no Brexit vote, meaning therefore no Brexit. You would have loved that, says Gerard. Everybody would have loved that, Gerard. Brexit has been an absolute catastrophe for this country and will continue to be for the rest of our lives. He says Labour would have won the general election in 2019 and would have won another one in 2023 before David Miliband calls it a day in 2026, claiming that he is tired. That's Gerard looking into a future that we never had. Investigating a different timeline. Like he's in Back to the Future. Mike says, so our hapless Chancellor has been thrown under the truss. But she was every bit to blame herself, as it was her awful vision of growing the economy that he was enacting. Some ally she turned out to be for crazy. Her performances both at PMQs and today's press conference were utterly woeful. All she can keep droning on about is the help that they've given to households with the energy bill crisis, and when challenged about the hundreds of pounds extra that mortgage holders now have to pay, she just says it's a global interest rate problem and nothing to do with her. This country was like this when I got here, she says. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. By the way, I do 3 podcasts. There's the one of the Friday and Saturday night shows, which is on Global Player. Nick Abbot, The Whole Show podcast. There's the one that I do with Carol McGiffin.
Oh, right, yeah.
And there's the best of, which is called the Nick Abbot Habit. Now, that's a half an hour of concentrated amusement. It comes out on Monday. It's from old shows. I take out all of the rubbish, just put in the funny bits. 30 minutes. If you have 30 minutes and you wish to be amused, I think it would be right up your alley. Ask for it by name on an internet near you. The Nick Abbot Habit.
This is LBC with Nick Abbot.
What in places goes on inside that head of yours?
Gordon texts, is it worse to throw tomato soup at Van Gogh's sunflowers or sunflowers at Andy Warhol's tomato soup? Excellent question, Gordon. Don't do either of those two things. Leave the art alone, you idiots. Richie texts, a quick text about Robbie Coltrane. He was a genius. My favourite programme he appeared in was the rock and roller in Tutti Frutti. Yeah, I said that already. Unless you texted that before I said it, in which case I apologise. Tutti Frutti. They should definitely put that back on TV. James says Liz Truss is artificially intelligent.
Affirmative.
Well, that's just a fact. Enfield. Hello, Lee.
Oh, hello, Nick.
Hello.
It's a massive pleasure to talk to you again. Before I say what I was going to say, I'd like, after you just said there about Robbie Coltrane, I was a big fan of Harry Potter, and I read all the books, and he was so class in that, he really was.
Well, not in the books he wasn't.
No, I mean, I read all the books before I saw the films.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and he really was class in that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was class in them films. Anyway,
I agree entirely.
And the point I wanted to make really was also, you were talking about Finland and Norway and Slovenia. They sound lovely to me, especially Slovenia, a great country. Anyway, the point I wanted to make was about Liz Truss.
Yes.
I've seen a lot of headlines about calling her Thick Lizzie, and I wanted to make sure that you and the great public out there don't get her mixed up with Thin Lizzie, who
Thin
are the
Lizzie,
best band
yeah.
ever.
Not Thin Lizzie, Thick Lizzie.
Rock and roll!
Yeah. I don't think there's any chance. There is no chance of anybody getting her mixed up with Thin Lizzie, unless you start to think about some of the titles of their songs, like "Don't Believe a Word," for instance.
Well, exactly,
would be a good one. Yeah, "Don't Believe a Word." Yeah,
the greatest band of all time.
"Waiting for an Alibi." There's another one. Or
exactly. Yeah.
Bad Reputation. Bad Reputation.
We have never had it so good.
Or Cold Sweat, as in she always looks like she's in one. Well spotted there, Lee. Thanks for that. 0345 6060 973. Phil tweets, I think that King Chaz should summon the Trustbot to Buckingham Palace and force her to dissolve a parliament and then demand she calls a general election. Yeah, he ain't going to do that. Paul says, I think Liz Truss should reopen the Downing Street branch of Wetherspoons. Yeah, I wonder if they've had any business meetings since Bodger was there. Had any all-night business meetings? Jim says, somebody asked me this morning what the weather forecast was for the day, and I said I am determined to deliver economic stability for sustainable growth and prosperity for this country. Then they asked me, how many fingers am I holding up? I replied, what I've done today is to make sure that we deliver a low-tax, high-wage economy for strong and sustained growth, and then just walked off without a word. Did I say something wrong? Says Jim. No, Jim. You said everything right. Would you like to run the country? It's all that is required. Just as long as you get one of at least 4 or 5 special key words in each sentence, then that is all there is required of you. They being, I have been very clear that, I have taken decisive action, it was the right thing to do. I forget what the other one is. See, I could never do that job. 0345 6060 973. Altrincham. David.
Hello, Nick.
David.
Hi, mate. I'm absolutely loving watching the Tory party tear themselves apart.
Mm-hmm.
I'm absolute heaven.
Well, it's usually what the Labour Party do so very well, so it's a bit of a switch.
Well, yeah, it is a switch. But what is amazing me, it really is amazing me, is that the snake, or the major snake in general, the main protagonist of the downfall of the Tory party, Jason Rees-Mogg,
I don't know anything.
seems to be dodging all the bullets, and he still seems to be in the cabinet, and I was just wondering how he's doing it.
Well, when you're that thin, it's very easy to dodge anything incoming.
He goes on all these television programs, spewing his lies. He makes Boris Johnson look like a born-again Christian minister.
I love all of these people that claim to be guided by their faith, and yet in every instance do the exact opposite of what Jesus would do.
Of course it is. Well, it's the old adage, isn't it? The Tories at prayer. They go to the church in the morning, and as they come out of the church and they see a poor homeless person sat outside the church collecting, trying to get some money for some food, they'll kick him. They'll kick him on the way out.
So tell him to get a job.
Yeah. Anyway, it's been lovely speaking to you.
Oh, hasn't it ever? It's been an absolute
chest.
highlight of the previous 5 minutes. Excellent work. Thanks a lot, mate. 0345 6060 973. Andrew texts, if a robot can give evidence in the House of Lords, how do we know that Liz Truss is not a robot? We don't know that.
Affirmative.
Only a robot can tell another robot.
Affirmative.
Mark texts, Kwasi made the classic rookie mistake by watching other chancellors deliver their fantastic budgets by pulling rabbits out of the hat. Kwasi proceeded to proudly pull a hat out of a rabbit and wondered why it spooked the financial markets. It's priceless, says Mark. How do you pull a hat out of a rabbit? Don't tell me. I don't want to know. New Malden, Ahmed.
Oh, hello, Nick. Yes. Now, this lot in 10 Downing Street, they've done such serious damage to the economy and the reputation of the United Kingdom in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And Liz Truss is still the Prime Minister.
Is she?
In her own words, that is
a disgrace. Yeah. Or
We have never had it so good.
select.
Well, the thing is, they are all bad as each other. And poor Jeremy Hunt, he's just been put to the lamb to the slaughter. Hopefully he won't come out with anything new.
Okay. First of all, he's not poor. Second, he knows what he's doing. His eyes are wide open. Third, he didn't have to take the job. And fourth, I'm sure he'll be just fine.
Well, we are, in a state we are, economy-wise, because they know not what they're doing. And a whole lot of them.
Well,
They just
I'm
haven't
not sure
got a
about.
clue.
I'm not sure about that. I think that they do know what they're doing. It's just that they're trying to get to the promised land by an inept method. They're just not very good at the finagling racket, which is what they aspire to be at the toppermost of.
Well, they have. They have kept making mistakes one after the other. The whole world told them this is not the way to go, and yet they have implemented policies which is detrimental to the whole economy of the United Kingdom.
Well, yes, apart from a few people who have made an enormous amount of money from what it is that they have just done. I mean, when people say they keep making the same mistake over and over again, you have to wonder, is it actually a mistake? Or is it a distraction technique for what is actually going on, which is the wholesale strip mining of everything that is valuable in this country? We ain't got nothing left that we own here. It is, I keep saying it, it's a smash and grab raid. Now you can say, well, they burst into that shop and they missed all the good stuff that was in the window and the car, because the car destroyed all those televisions. Well, that might not be a mistake. They just might be taking your eye off what they're actually doing, which is raiding the jewelry section in the back.
Well, obviously they have to face the music. And, I mean, the thing is, the decent thing for this lot is to go to the country. Otherwise, I think we are just going downhill. They have no answer. They have no solutions.
I don't think we're going. I don't think we're going downhill anymore. I think we've reached the very apex. No, what's the opposite of an apex? The very lowermost point of this particular hill. I don't think we can get any lower than this. Surely not. But then I thought that when you know who was in charge.
Yeah. Wait.
I didn't think we could go lower than that, but they found a way.
Well, I hope soon the Tory party is going to take some resolute action to, appoint somebody else. And not appoint somebody else. In fact, they need to go to the country now. It's so serious now because nothing will restore our economy or reputation across the world. We are laughing stock of the world at the moment.
Sadly so, yeah. But keep in mind that a few people have made a massive amount of money. Huge. Don't forget that part. Don't ever forget that part. Thanks a lot, Ahmed. 0345 6060 973.
Leading Britain's conversation. LBC with Nick Abbott.
Who do you think you're talking to?
I am talking to Peter in Guildford. Peter?
Hello, Nick. Hope you're well.
I'm great, mate.
Following the Liz Truss way of talking, I want to make it clear that I don't know how Liz Truss is going to survive because she's upset the best part of the country, but now she's done something really sinful. She's upset the people that were going to benefit from the tax cuts. And they are really going to, they're in despair. So how is she going to survive? She's upset all of the country. She's put up virtually everybody's mortgage. Now she's upset the people that were greedy in the first place.
Yep.
Where does she go from here?
I don't know how she's going to get out of the inescapable fact that she said that anyone who is opposed to her policies is in the anti-growth coalition. Now she's just reversed all of her policies. That makes her the leader of the anti-growth coalition.
Exactly, yeah. Did you hear they showed the clip during one of her hustings, and she was talking about how she grew up. She saw in the 80s, how there were boarded up shops, and in the 90s.
She grew up she grew up a poor black woman, yeah.
But the 80s were the Thatcherite times, and the early 90s were the Thatcherite and Major times.
Yes.
So she was actually criticising the times when her own government was in power.
Yeah, her own heroine was the leader. Yeah, the person she's based her hairstyle on.
The one good thing I think, Nick, is that she's shown people after years and years of the Tories trying to bluff us that they all care about everybody and all that.
Caring conservatism, I think, is what you're talking about. Caring conservatism, yeah.
They really do care. But what she's shown them is what real conservatives are, what they really are. Tax cuts for the rich, poverty for the poor, crush the trade union movement. Yep. Like you said, people think, why do they keep getting these things wrong? But like you so rightly said, it's a smash and grab raid. Yeah. It's not wrong. It's what they want to do.
And every now and again they will chuck just think, what would Donald Trump do?
Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
Donald Trump would throw out distraction bombs, and he'd just make them up on the hoof, and he'd just chuck them out there. And now we've got an entire cabinet who are concentrating their minds on trying to distract us with something or other. Swella Braverman just the other day said that she wanted to introduce the death penalty for smoking marijuana.
Want to score some pot?
Or something like that. And then this Rwanda thing is exactly the same. And spotting dinghies and pushing them back out to sea, that's another distraction bomb. And there'll be another one along any moment now.
What gets me, Mick, is they go on about dinghies. Oh, look, there's people coming over in their dinghy. Yeah. What strikes me, though, is that they never worry about, when they talk about foreign investment, they don't mind foreign companies coming abroad and buying up our companies. They don't worry about that.
On the cheap.
But they do worry about an immigrant in a boat.
Quite right, yeah. No, I think you're completely correct in every respect. Thanks a lot, Peter. Yeah, inward investment, that's what they keep banging on about. But what that means is that foreigners are coming over here and buying our stuff because there's a big for sale sign on this country. Everything is cheap here. Other countries are coming in and buying up what little we've got left. Try and think of anything that is British, that is associated with Britain, that is actually owned by a Briton, or is owned by a collection of Britons. It's all foreign owned. Everything we've got has been bought up by somebody else. Why? Because they enjoy the short-term blip. It's why they sold off all of our stuff. Electricity and gas and water. Water! What kind of stupid country sells its water? And they did it for a short-term blip in the finances. They could say, here, look, how tremendously well we've done. And then, of course, that money that they've just made by selling off the things that should be ours forever just vanishes. It's there for a brief moment. They show you a picture of it, and then they take it away again. And it's gone. Forever. That's what's happening now. Inward investment. People in other countries are seeing the price of the shares of our companies, and they're thinking, blimey, they're just giving it away. Which essentially is precisely what is happening. Giving it away to people that don't live here. But they want to distract you from that by telling you that, some bloke has just washed up damp at Dover. And that's what we should be concentrating on. In other words, it's really simple. Their plan is, and it works really well, always has done, probably always will do. The plan is simple. Convince those that you are being held down by people below you on the ladder, dragging you down. Whereas the truth is, you're being held down by the people above you on the ladder, pushing you down. But once you realise that, big trouble, huge. It's Forester Dean, Gabriel.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, thanks.
First time caller. The couple of points. This has kept me awake at night. The first point: why, in the age of the cancel culture, are none of the presenters of these shows that get these politicians on TV not actually calling them out face to face and saying, who do you think you are and what are you doing? What gives you the right?
Well, they do every now and again. They might not put it quite like that, but they will just get the usual stock answer. I have been very clear that we're moving forward for Britain and its growth, and just the usual thing. It's as though every question just bounces off their deflector shield, and they hit play on the answer that they've formulated to some different question.
Well, surely the public must see it differently. So, if they actually asked them the question straight to the face and looked them in the eyes and said, basically, you are a smash and grab, you are stealing from the people that you're meant to be protecting, then who do you think you are? It's just wrong. The only people that have benefited this week are the Londoners with the Cockney rhyming slang for Jeremy Hunt's last name.
Okay. All right, thanks, Gabriel. 0345 6060 973. I wouldn't really call that a benefit. Peter emails I'll read that later. I might read that the last one. Graham says, have you noticed the other phrase the Tories keep coming out with at the moment is, I don't agree with the premise of the question. What they mean is, I don't want to answer that one. Here's an answer to one that I thought of earlier, which I think is pretty much what I just said. We are in concord on that issue, Graham. 03, but by which I don't mean we're aloft. Heston, Isaac.
Hello.
Isaac.
Hello, yes.
Yes, sir.
Oh, God, Christ, sorry, you caught me off guard there. I was just having a sneaky power nap.
Is that right? Well, wakey.
Wakey. Okay, right. 2 points. One comic, one serious. Let's get the comic one out first. Right. Now, I was watching Liz Truss's press conference this afternoon, okay?
Yeah.
Right. And what struck me about her whole presentation, not only at the press conference, but since she became leader and during the hustings when she was trying to be leader, is that she's like a Stepford wife prime minister.
Yeah.
Do you remember the film, The Stepford Wives?
I do.
In the yeah. Okay. I mean, yeah. So her response is like a Stepford wife. So anyone in the nation who's not sure about the film, the American film, The Stepford Wives, go and do a Google search. That's what she's like.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it now.
I'm very clear about it.
Do it later. Not now. Later.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Serious point. I think both Liz and Kwasi should go because they know exactly what they're doing. Because they wrote this book, Britannia Unchained, right?
Yeah.
Britannia Unchained. So, and that book, which they wrote, I think you might have said it was published in 2012, right? Okay, it was published in 2012.
I can't remember when it was published, but they were partly responsible for that book, in which they said that British people are laziest in the world and all that.
Right, exactly. Yeah, Liz Truss, Kwasi Kwarteng. Dominic Raab.
My name's Dominic Raab, and I'm a Tory.
Priti Patel, and a guy called Peter Skidmore or something. Those five wrote that book about basically, turning the UK economy into like a slave working economy.
Essentially, that is the dream. Yeah, where all of the money is gathered into the accounts of the very, very rich, and everybody else works for peanuts.
Absolutely, yeah. So they know what they were doing. They know what they're doing. I was a little bit surprised. I think what it is. I think Kwarteng agreeing to go is tactical because I think Kwarteng still believes in that vision.
Oh, God.
So,
they've been dreaming about this for decades.
Exactly, yeah. So basically, when it comes to Kwarteng, Truss, Patel, Raab, and this skinny more guy, right? that is their manifesto.
Yeah.
That is their economic manifesto for Britain.
Them and the Tufton Street Massive, yeah. The think tanks and all of those people funded by, we've got absolutely no idea, but let's assume that they're American billionaires, shall we? Let's assume that it's American billionaires is the very same people that put you-know-who into office.
Believe me. Okay?
Don't believe them. Thanks a lot, Isaac. 0345 6060 973. Johnny texts, Truss sacking QWERTY is like... he's like a ventriloquist sacking the dummy for what it is saying. And Rona says, I need to be convinced that we're not all living in the film Idiocracy. What is going on with this country, says Rona. I know you hate homework, but don't forget to watch God Bless America. I guarantee it won't disappoint, says Rona. God Bless America. What's that? Do I know anything about that? Has somebody told me to watch that before? I can't remember. I don't recall. Andrew says there's an up-and-coming MP on the backbenches called Theresa May. I predict she'll be a great new leader for the Conservative Party. Any thoughts, Bodge?
I can't comment on that.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850.
Come on, we're running late!
0345 6060 973. Tess texts, Liz Truss looks like a puppet. Miss Penelope, to be exact. Yeah, not Penelope Pitstop. Definitely not Penelope Pitstop. Miss Penelope, perhaps. And Joe says, Miss Trust also points her finger a lot. Have you noticed? I just wish she'd point a finger at herself and take some responsibility. Take some responsibility, Miss Trust. Guildford, hello, Les.
Hello, Nick. I'd just like to say what a lot of your callers have been saying about this money's been planned and it's a smash and grab and everything. Back in, when was it? Brexit was going on about 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, seems like forever.
Anyway, Boris Johnson was. He kept on about we got to get Brexit done, and there was a programme on the television on Channel 4. It was about April, May time, and it was a documentary, and there was 2 people in it, Jacob Rees-Mogg and Steve Baker, and that was at the time. Exactly the time was when Mogg had moved all his assets and everything to Dublin.
Well, he would say that they're not his assets and he just got nothing to do with the fund anymore.
Yeah,
and it's all blind.
Yeah, well, we know. Yeah. I agree entirely. But because he knew what was coming, and he said that he had already made £7 million because the pound started sliding. He had that in his pocket.
Well, that's peanuts, Les. There's people...
Hang on.
Well, go on then.
Hang on, it don't stop there. Steve Baker had made $220 million.
What?
And $220 million. It's all on that documentary on Channel 4.
You're chucking around a lot of accusations here, Les, and I've got absolutely no idea why one way or the other, because I didn't see that documentary. But that seems like a large amount of money. But we're going to leave it there. Thanks a lot, Les. They'll all be just fine. Don't you worry about that. Up to their eyeballs in cash they are. Phil tweets, that documentary about the making of Alien that you spoke of last week was very good. Do you have any other documentary recommendations? Yes. Hoop Dreams is very good, but very, very old. There's that one about the graffiti artists in New York in the late 70s, early 80s. That was excellent. That was called... I can't remember. I know that's not very helpful, but it was very, very good. If that's a consolation. The one that I can't remember the name of is very, very good. I want you to write that down. I'll think of it. I might think of it before the end of the show. Meanwhile, here is a call in Lancashire, Carnforth. Hey, Penny.
Hey up, Nick. How you doing?
Great, mate.
Good. I was just ringing up because you had a caller probably about an hour ago who said something about he thought that the Lisbot had chosen Jeremy Hunt to to be the new Chancellor because she couldn't find anybody else out of the deadbeat sort of extreme right of the Tory party. But I don't think that's why she's done it. I think it's because she knows that the people who aren't on the totally loony extreme have been sharpening their knives all week for her, and that it's a bit of a sop to the not completely mad brigade in the party, so that, because when she did that cabinet, she didn't put anybody in from who voted for Rishi Sunak.
Yeah.
So they were all her people, but I think this is why she's brought him in. And what she's done today with the saying that she was going to put up the corporation tax to the 25%, I think she thinks that'll calm things down, but it hasn't calmed the markets down that much because that's only 18 billion. There's still masses of billions that are going to have to be found.
I think that you know what? I think it's much worse than all of this. I think that having rinsed the country clean, they now think, well, let somebody else pick up all the mess that we made. I mean, we don't really, not really that bothered in fixing this because it's been an absolute blooming nightmare for about the next 5-10 years trying to clean up the mess for the last 10 years. So let Labour flail around and try to fix things, and we'll just put our feet up and smoke a cigar and spend more time with our money, and then we can come back in and pretend that we've saved the country.
Yeah, you could, I'm sure you could well be right about that. But as far as she's concerned, herself personally, I think she was kind of very ambitious. I think she just desperately wanted to be PM, didn't she?
It's delusional.
Yes, I mean, she's so awful, isn't she? I mean, that performance today, I didn't see it, but I heard it, and I thought, oh my God,
I mean, I'm not looking to be entertained anymore by a politician. I'm past that now completely. But equally, you've got to have a little bit of something about you, but there's just nothing there.
Oh, absolutely not. She's like one of those dolls, that you pull a piece of string out of the back of and it just repeats about 3 phrases.
Yeah, that you'd see in a horror film. Yeah, it'd be propped up in the chair at the bottom of a kid's bed and it wakes up in the middle of the night and the doll has moved.
Or it's saying terrible things. It's just, but she just repeats the same old boring things, and I do think they'll get rid of her. I don't think they'll let her carry on because they couldn't possibly put her up at the next election. But like you say, I mean, if they're not bothered about losing the next election, I suppose they could just let her carry on.
I think so, yeah. And if she ever says "kill your parents," then you'll know that you're in a horror film. All right, yeah. Thanks a lot, Annie. 0345 6060 973. One more. Let's have Bolton. Kate.
Right.
Kate.
Good morning.
Hello, Kate.
Hello. Well, one of the solutions I'd have to part of it is that, first of all, she made a rule that any tourist that comes over here don't have to pay VAT. Well, instead of that, look after your own and bring the VAT down because it will help the poor people and people with kids and old people and bring it down to 10% for this country, not everyone else. And the other thing is...
Not sure about that.
They're all going on about Labour, right? Anybody that knows the history, and I'm
80 years old. Yeah.
All right. Anybody that thinks that Labour's got the answer.
Oh, my God. This is not one of those what about calls, is it?
No. It's one of those things that say the unions run Labour and they think...
Well, of course they do. And it would be better... Do you not think that it would be better to be run by a party that is funded by millions of people giving small amounts of money rather than a party that is funded by a handful of people giving millions?
No, the Labour Party...
You're not listening to me, are you, Kate? You're not listening to me, are you, Kate?
You listen to me, because I can't talk a lot. I'm bedridden and one thing and another. But what I can tell you is, they think they're bothered by the strikes now. If Labour get in, there'll be a strike for every day of the year.
Kate, there is a strike for every day of the year. It is a what about it call. I restate my case. Would it be better... Do you think you would get a better outcome for the little people, not leprechauns, if they were run by a party that is funded by millions of people, or run by a party that is funded by a handful of people who give millions? Which do you think would have the interests of the majority at heart? It's just a question I throw out. I'm curious to know the answer. Thanks a lot, Kate. And finally, Peter emails, if Jacob Smug put his tongue out, he'd be a zip. What do you think, Smug?
You're better informed than I am. I don't know anything.
He'll think about it. If you stick around, Richard Spur will be here to delight you at 4 o'clock. But first, in person, it's Clyde Ball. 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 Person, it's Clyde Ball.